So there's many different types of network servers out there, obviously. The main classes are the web servers, as we just mentioned one. We have the file servers. We have print servers, DHCP servers, DNS servers, proxy servers. I can go on and on and on. But obviously, all these servers provide some type of service for the users. In this also, for those that want to also know, inside the actual A+ class workbook, it's in the textbook pages 487 through 510. So let's go to the next slide. Our main objectives is going to be to distinguish between the different types of servers in a given network, explain how IT professionals may use the knowledge of network servers to support clients, and then to describe the role of security, network appliances, and common safety procedures associated with it. Has anyone ever set up a server before?
Oh, I have.
So can you explain what was the purpose of that server to the client, more or less?
It was just a basic web server for my company. I had a lot of help with it, of course. I was just there to assist with putting the data, making it look pretty on HTTP and Dreamweaver, making sure it's working right. I had to go to the server to make sure things are connected correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember having issues with certain things. Now that I know what they are, when I think back now, but I was just basically the shadow guy. I knew how to make things look pretty. That's why I was there setting up the server a little bit with them.
Mm-hmm. So what was the main job of that server, you would say?
Just web. It was meant
Exactly.
to show off
Web server,
the art.
right? So what's a web server do? What does it provide? You explain to me.
It provides a web page that you can see. In other
Exactly.
words, a website.
It's a web. It provides website access to websites and maybe to resources in there if you're going to be purchasing. Depending the site itself, it could just be a blog site. Whatever it is, it provides the resource to the client itself. Be in this case a website itself to be able to navigate and maybe possibly do orders. I'm not sure what was in there, but that is the purpose of a web server is to provide access to a website. Correct. So each one, we want to know what they are and what their job is and what exactly is the service that is providing to these users or the clients, right? We have server and client PCs. So Pablo, can you help us out here?
How will knowledge of servers impact your IT career? A computer technician is a professional who repairs and maintains computers, networks, and servers. The technician's responsibilities with servers may include building or configuring new hardware, installing and updating software packages, and connecting to networks. Understanding different server roles is the first step in order to later configure and manage servers in more senior positions.
So, any questions on how it will impact you? It's pretty simple. This is one of the things, depending on which way in your career you want to go. Obviously, if you want to go into the server administration, building servers, all these different types of servers, you would obviously need to learn this. And you would need to learn the basics, because to become a Microsoft certified professional, you need to understand how to configure servers and or the intricacies needed for each one. Jordan, can you help us out here?
A server is a computer program that provides services to other computer programs and their users in the same or other computers. In the client-server model, a server awaits and fulfills requests from a client, which may be running in the same or other computers. Some servers will be dedicated to a specific task, such as hosting websites, and they are called dedicated servers. servers. Non-dedicated servers may perform multiple tasks, such as hosting a website and serving as an administrator's daily workstation.
Thank you. As simple as that. Basically, the server is there as it means. He is your server. He's waiting there to basically give information, perform hosting of sites, depending on each one. As we have here on the next slide, each one has its own specific role. Obviously, there is some company that use the same server for different roles, but we need to, just like we know that there is a network appliances that are used that are all in one, we need to understand what is the feature of each one, because these things obviously are not the same. A print server is that. What is a print server? Christina.
I'm guessing it helps print stuff.
Exactly. So prior to this, a lot of the users, or in the small little companies, we all agree we need to then install the printer on every single computer. Print servers, what they do is you actually install the printer onto the server itself. Then all drivers and everything necessary gets installed on the server, including 86 or 64-bit, whatever it is that you need for whichever operating system, it gets installed there. So when you want to connect another user with ease, you can actually search for that print server queue and install the actual printer on the user. So what happens if I actually change the printer? All I have to do is go to one place. I go to the server, I change the drivers on the of the name of that printer, and boom. Now you're back up. One location, one file, and everybody gets up. On top of it, it's one centralized location for troubleshooting the printer. Any questions? Doubts? So the DHCP server, what does that do? Now that we know what DHCP is. And who can
It
help me?
assigns IP addresses for devices.
Exactly that. He's basically listening for somebody to broadcast that he needs an IP on that port. What's the port for DHCP? Daniel or Justin?
Like the number or like
Yeah. What's the port number?
the 67?
Everyone agree? 67? Guys don't look
Yes.
confident. All right. So that's who he's listening to. He has that UDP port 68 and 67 is open. Usually 67 is for the destination port of the server, and 68 is being used by the actual client. Those are two ports and why they're used. And they're both, I believe, in UDP, if I remember correctly. So what does a proxy server do? Anyone? We're going to be going all of them. I'm just trying to see how much knowledge we have.
Proxy server.
Uh-huh.
Usually it's what it is another server that is just doing the request of another server. It's either, it can be used as a cache, hide its IP. It's also able to be a load balancer, and it can do reverse proxy as well if you can do that.
Well, a proxy server is kind of funny because this one sometimes confuses people. This is obviously being used in large companies. It's not being used in small companies. The proxy server is the one that proxies you to the internet. All right. What do I mean by that? I did say earlier that a router is the one that's representing you. If you are in a company who has a proxy server, whenever you're leaving the web domain of your company, it has to go through the proxy server, who then goes out through the router, obviously, to request the information. But he proxies in the network, in the intranet. He is now responsible for you. So he then replaces, just like the router is doing the NAT translation, he replaces your IP with his, and he puts his port number and he sends it to the router. The router then does his own NAT, and he goes, gets the information, he gives it back to the proxy server. The proxy server then strips his information and sends it back into the internal network and lets the routers inside the intranet be able to route it back to you. His job is for that. He represents you leaving the intranet to be able to get out into the internet. A lot of companies do not allow everyone to go out into the internet. So you require also a proxy ID. So when you go and you hit this proxy, it will ask you what's your ID and what's your password to be able to get out. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the internet. You'll be able to see all intranet sites, but you will not be able to see any internet sites. Carlos, web servers, if you can help us out with the purpose, how it works, location, and the most popular programs.
Sure. Web servers, purpose to store, process, and deliver web pages to users. How it works. The web server itself is configured with web hosting software, which listens for inbound requests on a port 80 and or port 443 made by clients using a browser. Location, they can be connected to the internet where they can be reached from anywhere, or they can be contained within a network and are available only within the network called an intranet server. Most popular programs, how do you pronounce that? Yeah, Apache, right? HTTP Server and Microsoft's Internet Information Services.
IIS, Apache and IIS. That's the information or Internet Information Services. Thank you. So anybody can tell me what, how it works on port 80 and 443. What two protocols are those? Port 80 is what?
TCP.
I'm sorry?
It works at the application level. It's a TCP kind of connection.
Okay, but the name of that port is?
It's both 80 for HTTP and then 44. Yeah.
And then what's 443? If 80 is HTTP, what's 443?
Secure. So it's HTTP secure.
Okay, HTTPS.
And it uses TSL or SSL encryption.
Okay. Next one. We see here, we have the web server. You got your machine. You send out the request for the page, and obviously he responds. That's his job. Goes into that little vicious cycle. So he's listening. He has port 80 open at all times. Remember that we have my address, which is the facility, right? So then I always have apartment 80 with the door open, wide open, letting the breeze in. What does that mean? Obviously, that's dangerous because usually when ports are open, that's where you're hackable. That means the door is not locked. All other ports must be locked on servers. Same thing with PCs. All ports that are not being used or not actually should be listening, that's what it's called, listening, should not be open. Next. File servers. Who can help me with that one?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
File service. Purpose: to store user files and make them available to other users. Advantages: ease to access to files for collaboration, centralized security management, centralized backups. Protocols: it uses file transfer protocol on ports TCP 20 and 21 to receive and send data from users. It also uses a standard system of file management hidden behind the scenes through a user interface used to access this server, either SMB, which is a Windows server, or AFB, Apple Filling Protocol, which is an Apple server. Location: file servers are almost always on the internal network.
Now, the curious that gets me there is, okay, they do say SMB. There it goes, 135, right? Okay, that's what they're talking about. Never mind. I was wondering why they said only 20 and 21, but they say SMB here, which is port 135 through 139, right? The UDP ports 135 through 139, and TCP also 135 through 139 is being used, depending on what your need is. Any questions on file server, its purposes, advantages, disadvantages, or location? Next one. Who can help us out here?
Printer servers. Purpose: to make printers available to users. How it works: a dedicated computer or software inside a computer used to manage one printer or multiple printers. It provides the spooler service to the printers to accept, manage, and store print requests. Many enterprise printers come with a built-in print server, which makes using a dedicated machine for the role unnecessary. Connections: server might be connected to a computer, then shared on the network. The network adapter and the use of software is built into the printer through an adapter card. Protocols: print servers use standard printing protocols: SMB, server message block, IPP, Internet Printing Protocol, LPD, line printer, daemon. Daemon?
Demon. I don't know. I usually say demon. Uh, I'm not very good at asking how
Is
to
that a
know.
Linux protocol?
Line LPD? Not that I'm aware of. LPD is a line printer. Those are the line printers.
Oh, because
Anyone know what a printer spool is?
I'm not sure, but it sounds like a lot of paper. So when I used to do some form of auditing, I remember Spooler is this huge list of archive that you can print out. Is that what it is? Archive?
Well, see, what happens is the print server, a print spool, Microsoft created basically to manage all print jobs themselves. And basically, he'll, lack of a better name, buffer the information on the actual server, and then he starts sending it towards the printer to be processed. The same thing, the internal printer has its own spooler program, usually, the sophisticated ones. So that if it all of a sudden starts getting hammered with a lot of requests, he'll put you on that queue. And that queue starts growing while he keeps on printing everything, and then slowly remove stuff from the queue. You'll be dealing with printer jobs queues a lot if you see that all of a sudden a whole department stopped printing, so you need to go into the printer spooler. Most of you probably didn't notice, but you'll see it here if you go into your printer. In the little thing of the printer here. Let's see. I don't have any printers. That's great. Thank you. I do have a printer. Hey, here we are. Here's the queue. So you usually see all the name, all the printers, the status, the owner of it, the page, size, everything, and when it was submitted. You can come in here, you can pause all of it, cancel all of them. You can obviously check the sharing. You can set it as your default, all of this from here. This is your queue on your computer. Likewise, the server will have this in containing the printer that is being shared and all the actual print jobs that are in there. That's basically what it does when it's spooling. So you could either print direct, which it goes directly to the printer, or you could spool it. Any questions?
So this one doesn't have any ports that it goes to, or?
SMB, IPP, LPD.
Oh, they just didn't name the numbers?
Yeah, they expect you to know that SMB port is 139 or 445. And then they expect you to know what IPP port is. Any questions? Same thing with LPD. Any questions, doubts? We okay there? All right. Next slide.
Alive. Alive.
Here's a view of a print server on the actual server. As you saw, I have the capabilities on my computer too to mimic and create a print server on mine. A lot of the new printers have their own internal print server, okay? And you can actually go into the GUI of the actual printers, but we don't do that. That's very hard to manage because then I got to go into every single print server, in other words, every printer in this case, to be able to manage it and manage its queue. Versus if I go and centralize it in one location, I now can go in that server and check all the different print queues and make sure that everybody has the correct drivers. I can actually click here, new driver, and add a second driver that is for the 64-bit, one for 32-bit operating systems and one for 64-bit. And on top of that, sometimes it's actually the server driver that's here. So maybe I have to book both, the computer 32-bit and the computer Windows computer 64-bit. Here you can see that it says print spool documents first, start printing immediately, or start printing after the last page is spooled. Here's your spooling. Any question? DHCP server. Daniel, seemed brave, wanted to talk.
Yeah, let's go for it. DHCP server's purpose to automate the process of providing an IP configuration to devices on the network. How it works. These servers respond to broadcast-based requests for an IP configuration from internal network devices. Their functions is to offer the following information to a DHCP client: IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server. DHCP servers are used in multiple environments. Enterprise DHCP should be running redundancy on central servers due to running more than one DHCP server. Home and wireless routers typically run a DHCP service inside of the device to give all of the home devices IP address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, what else does he do besides the automation of the process for providing an IP address? Anybody remember what else he has?
Would that also be reserving? Would that be the other extra thing?
Correct. He reserves all static IP ranges. Thank you for that one. So basically, you will be making sure that a certain zone is not being given as a DHCP IP. That's his function. He's going to give only the zones that are going to be automatically. All the static IPs, you want to make sure that doesn't get assigned. Any questions, doubts on the purpose, how it works, function, or the enterprise versus home? Everyone understand what they mean by redundancy? What does redundancy mean, Justin?
That there's multiple instances of the DHCP server, so in case one fails, another can back it up.
That's correct. In the enterprise environment, a lot of times they have a DHCP server which resides in the building, including a domain server that resides in the facility, and they have a backup all over the actual intranet of various domain servers and DHCP servers to ensure that you're able to log in, because you need that for the domain, and to ensure that you get an IP address in case if something happens to your local DHCP server, it will be redundant outside. Usually you don't have it inside the same building. It would make no sense to waste that much money in one building. Any questions? Next slide. Actually, before we go on to the next, well, let's do this one. And before we go on to the next server, we'll go to break. So how does he do it? I was not kidding. Sometimes you'll see these things and you think that it's a lie, but basically that's what's happening. He sends out a discovery. Can anyone give me an IP? And he sends it and he screams it out. He broadcasts, right? Then if the server is here locally, he will respond back. He says, yeah, sure, here's your number. And he leases it to him. So he's got a lease. Remember that. That is very important. The lease is always there when it comes to your actual IP. When you get a DHCP address, it's not forever. You'll always have a time of when it's going to expire. Even in your own house. You got it expired and when it was obtained. So by this time, if my computer happens to be off and it comes through, it releases, even if it has it available or not, even if I have 500 addresses available, he can care less. Your time is up. Your MAC address didn't come and ask for the IP again. I let you go. You're not needed.
And that's to save on the number of IP addresses like you have available, right?
That's to not run out of IP addresses. That is correct. That's to help alleviate the problem, because as soon as you get more, for instance, in mine here, we have 255, 255, 255, and my first 100 is reserved for static. Then I only have 155 addresses. So when that 156th person comes into this house, no longer anyone else will be able to, including that person, will be able to get on. Anybody extra. Let me rename that, or rephrase that, sorry. Nobody extra will be able to get on. And what happens if you start, you do it a lot. You buy a new phone, buy another phone, gets a whole bunch of visitors. You have a big party. That's it. Nobody's going to be able to connect. You ran out of leases. Any questions, doubts? That's a reason why also subnetting is made, to ensure that the amount of people that are going to be in a given facility is enough. You always want to have enough, never to be exact. Just like in our power supply that we said, we want to have enough and space to grow. So after he gives them the IP, he says, yes, is it still available? He tells them, hey, yeah, I got this number. You want it? Yeah, sure, give it. Fine, here you go. Any questions?
I have a question. Will you be able to use that for security? Let's say you have the exact numbers of devices. This way you kind of prevent people from getting in.
Yes, you can do that for your house. If you know exactly how many devices you're going to have and you lease those out, it won't be able to get in. Or you could completely turn off your DHCP server and manually put IPs on every computer.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That, once again, is security through obscurity. Because if I can figure out what really is your subnet, technically all I have to do is put a static IP, right? Questions? All right, I think that was it here. Let's go now to a little break, 15-minute break real quick. We'll continue with DNS servers.